It was one of those LA mornings that makes a man feel like lighting a cigarette just to watch the smoke dance in still air. I walked into the Sternwood mansion in a blue suit and darker mood, the kind of house with ceilings that disappear in shadow and rugs too soft for a guy like me. The butler showed me in like I belonged. I didn't. General Sternwood was in a greenhouse that smelled like a dead jungle. A skeleton of a man in a wheelchair swaddled in blankets and misery. His voice was paper dry, but his eyes were sharp, like a man who still saw everything but could no longer touch it. "You drink, Mr. Marlowe?" "When I work. Sometimes when I don't." He liked that. He told me his youngest daughter, Carmen, was being blackmailed again. Second time this year. This time by a man named Arthur Gwynne Geiger. "He runs a rare bookstore," the general said. "He also runs filth." I nodded. I knew the type. Then the general mentioned the man who handled the last blackmail case, Sean Reagan, a friend of his, an Irishman who drank hard and kept quiet. But Reagan had disappeared a month ago without a note. He left without saying goodbye. That wasn't like him. "You want me to find him too?" The general shook his head. "No. I want you to stop the blackmailer." So I was hired. Not to find the missing man, just to clean up the mess left behind. On my way out, I met Carmen. Young, pretty, empty behind the eyes. She giggled when she saw me, bit her lip, leaned too close. "You're cute," she said. I kept walking. And then I ran into her sister, Vivian. Different breed. Cold, composed, dressed in money and caution. "I assume my father hired you," she said. "He did. To find Sean?" "No." She didn't buy it, but she let me go. Outside, I lit a cigarette and stared at the sky. One job, one name, Arthur Geiger. Simple enough. But in my line of work, simple always walks into your office wearing silk and leaves through the morgue. And I had a feeling this job was just beginning to stretch its legs. First stop, Arthur Geiger's shop. A little hole in the wall on the boulevard, dressed up in polished wood and velvet drapes, like it wanted to be classy but couldn't shake the smell of something rotten underneath. I walked in. The girl behind the counter wore thick glasses, heavy lipstick, and a look that said she knew exactly how dirty the place really was. "Looking for a rare edition," I said. "Anything in particular?" "Something on the pre-Columbian erotics of the Mayan dynasty." She blinked once, twice, then gave me a smile that could cut glass. "I'll check in the back." She left. That told me everything. Because there wasn't a book in the world with that title. And if there were, they weren't keeping it in a place like this. While she was gone, I cased the place. Front shelves filled with legitimate titles. Nothing special, but behind the curtain, locked doors, heavy filing cabinets, a curtain too thick for just books. They weren't selling literature. They were selling photographs, dirty ones, wrapped in brown paper and gilt, and blackmail. I stepped back outside and crossed the street to another bookstore, one with an honest name and an honest clerk. I asked about Geiger. She winced. "That store's a cover," she said. "Everyone knows it, but no one proves it." I thanked her and waited until dusk. Then I saw it. Carmen Sternwood, pulling up in a flashy Packard and slipping into Geiger's store like a moth chasing fire. That was my cue. I drove around to the back alley and waited. An hour passed. Then a flash of light, then another. Gunfire. 2 shots. I sprinted up the back steps, pistol drawn, heart moving faster than my feet. I reached the door, unlocked. Inside, the lights were low and the air was thick with perfume and powder. Geiger was on the floor. Dead, shot clean through the chest. His mouth was open like he died mid-laugh. Across the room, Carmen. Naked, eyes glazed, smiling at nothing. At her feet, a hidden camera on a tripod, still pointed at the chair. Something told me she'd been posing when the shots rang out. I grabbed a blanket, wrapped her up, and dragged her to her car. She was no help, barely conscious, drugged or in shock, maybe both. I got her home. Didn't say a word to Vivian. Didn't want to. This wasn't over. Geiger was dead. But something told me the film in that camera would show more than just a girl in pearls. It might show a motive, and maybe a killer. I slept 4 hours and woke up feeling like I'd been used to mop the sidewalk. I called the cops, anonymously, and told them where to find Geiger's body. That would stir the pot and maybe give me a better view of what was boiling. Then I went back to the bookstore. Locked, curtains drawn. No sign of the girl. But something didn't sit right. Geiger was dead, but Carmen had walked out without a scratch, without a sound. Someone had killed him, but not for her. That meant there was another player in the game. I decided to check Geiger's house again. It was a Spanish-style number tucked into the Hollywood Hills, too quiet, too clean. I let myself in. No body, no blood, no camera. Just the same plush rug and faint smell of expensive perfume and fear. Someone had cleaned it up. Fast, too fast. I heard movement upstairs. Drew my gun. Climbed slow. At the end of the hall, a door creaked open. Inside, someone was rifling through drawers, fast and loud. I stepped in. A man spun around, gun already half raised. I hit him before he could think twice. He went down hard. I recognized the face. Joe Brody, a cheap hustler who used to run small-time blackmail rackets before getting chased out of Chicago. He groaned. "You again?" he said. "What's your game, Marlowe?" "Same as yours, looking for something valuable." "Geiger's dead. What more do you want?" "Answers. Try the classifieds." He wasn't going to talk, not yet, but he was scared. That was useful. I left Brody groaning and drove back to the Sternwood mansion. Vivian was waiting. She looked like she hadn't slept, and she didn't pretend to be polite. "What happened to Carmen last night?" "Nothing I couldn't handle." "Was she with Geiger?" "Not when I got there." "She's shaking, won't eat, keeps saying the camera." I lit a cigarette. "You want me to keep working this, or are you ready to tell me the truth?" She looked away. "I don't know anything." She was lying. But not badly, just scared. And in this family, fear was more common than honesty. I left the house with more questions than I came in with. Geiger was dead. Carmen was silent. Vivian was bluffing. And Joe Brody was still breathing. That meant there was still time to make someone talk, and I planned to be there when they did. I paid Joe Brody a visit that evening. His apartment was just what I expected. Second-floor walk-up in a grimy building with peeling wallpaper and neighbors who minded their own business. The kind of place where secrets sweat through the walls. I knocked once. No answer. I knocked again, louder. The door creaked open with the safety chain on. "Who is it?" "Marlowe." Pause, then, "Beat it." I smiled. "Joe, I already beat it once. Now I'm coming in." I gave the door a shove. The chain snapped. He wasn't expecting muscle. Inside, Brody stumbled back, face pale and hand twitching near his belt. "Don't," I warned, "unless you want that limp to be permanent." He backed off. I walked in and closed the door behind me. Sitting on the couch, legs crossed and eyes sharp, was Agnes, the girl from Geiger's bookstore. Glasses off, lipstick darker, same sour attitude. "Fancy meeting you again," I said. She didn't smile. I looked at Brody. "You cleaned up Geiger's mess." "Someone had to. Cops find a dead porn peddler with a senator's daughter wrapped in pearls? You think that ends clean? You found the film?" He said nothing. "Where is it?" "Gone," he said. "Burned it." I didn't believe him. Neither did Carmen, apparently, because just then someone pounded on the door from outside. "Joe!" a voice shrieked. "Give me my picture." It was Carmen. High-pitched, unhinged. Brody looked panicked. "She followed you here? Guess she's smarter than she looks. She's crazy. Aren't we all?" Brody tried to calm her down, but Carmen shoved her way inside, eyes wild, cheeks flushed. She saw Agnes, saw me, and her gaze locked on Brody like a hawk spotting his mouse. "You stole it!" she screamed. "I want it back." "I don't have it," he barked. She didn't believe him. Neither did I. That's when the gun came out, tiny, gold, and shaking in her hand. "Give it to me or I'll kill you." I stepped in. "Carmen, put it down." But she didn't. She pulled the trigger. Click. Safety on. Brody tackled her, knocking the gun loose. Agnes screamed. I grabbed the pistol and held Carmen by the shoulders. "That's enough." She sobbed against my coat, trembling. Brody was pale as paper. "She's nuts," he breathed. "You're lucky she didn't know how to use that thing." He glared at me. "So what now?" "Now," I said, "you're going to give me that film. Because this wasn't just blackmail anymore. It was murder fuel. And the reel in Joe Brody's closet might be the next body on the floor." Brody cracked. It didn't take much. One good shove, a cold stare, and the sound of Carmen weeping in the corner like a broken music box. He reached into a drawer, pulled out a manila envelope, and tossed it at me. Inside, photographs. Black and white. High contrast. Enough to ruin reputations, marriages, and elections. One showed Carmen in Geiger's chair, bare as a peeled apple, eyes wide with something between surprise and stupefied delight. The rest weren't much different. "Satisfied?" Brody muttered. "No, but it's a start. You going to the cops?" "Not yet." "Then we're square." I lit a cigarette. "Square as a coffin, Joe." Carmen was silent now. Curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. Her lipstick was smudged, her eyes empty. She looked less like a Sternwood and more like a girl who'd been used one too many times. "She going to talk?" Brody asked. "Depends, but if she does, your name's in it." He swore under his breath. "What about Agnes?" I looked over. She was pretending not to listen. "She's got brains. She'll vanish before you finish your next cigarette." He nodded grimly. Then the doorbell rang. 3 sharp knocks. Brody frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone. "Let's not keep him waiting," I said. He went to the door, opened it, and someone shot him. Twice. One in the chest, one in the throat. He hit the floor before I could draw. The hallway was empty when I got there. Just echoes and a puddle of blood crawling across the hardwood like a lazy red tide. Agnes screamed. Carmen fainted. I checked Brody's pulse. Nothing. Someone had followed Carmen. Or me. And they wanted Brody quiet. Permanently. I called the cops. This time with my name. They showed up fast, took statements, asked questions I didn't answer. They bagged the body, ignored the girls, and left me in the hall with nothing but the smell of gunpowder and regret. Back in my office, I stared at the photos. One thing bugged me. Geiger was dead. Brody was dead. But neither of them felt like the real spider at the center of this web. They were middlemen, fall guys. There was something bigger, or someone, pulling the strings. And if I was going to find Sean Regan, I'd have to get tangled a little deeper. Brody was dead. Carmen was rattled. Agnes was gone before the cops even took their first photo. Smart girl. She'd done this dance before. I had a pile of dirty pictures, 2 dead men, and one client in a wheelchair who thought he was hiring me to clean up a little blackmail. But this wasn't blackmail anymore. This was blood. And somewhere, in the middle of it all, was Sean Regan, the general's right-hand man, loyal Irish bootlegger turned fixer who had vanished without so much as a cigarette burn left behind. I figured it was time to start asking about him again. I drove to a place called Realito, out past the edge of the city. Big estates, big hedges, big secrets. According to my digging, Regan had spent time out there before he disappeared, visiting a woman named Mrs. Mona Mars. She was married to a gambler named Eddie Mars, a man who ran rackets from the shadows with a handshake and a gun behind his back. I didn't like the sound of that. But I liked silence even less. Mona wasn't home. Big gate, empty driveway. But someone was watching. I could feel it. Eyes behind curtains, tension in the trees. I left my card in the mailbox, just in case someone wanted to talk later, after the sun went down and the truth had fewer places to hide. Back in town, I dropped by Eddie Mars' club. Swanky joint. Rich men, silk gowns, and smoke thick enough to chew. Mars was in his office waiting for me like he'd been expecting the knock all week. Slick suit, slick smile, greased hair. The kind of man who called you pal while mentally picking out your coffin. "Marlowe," he said. "Heard you've been asking about my wife." "Just following footsteps. Yours seem to be all over this mess." He offered a drink. I didn't take it. "Regan came here, didn't he?" "Sure," Mars said. "Nice guy. The general trusted him, but he drank too much and got romantic about my wife. Then he vanished." "I didn't kill him," he said calmly. "I didn't even miss him." He had that cool tone. Too cool. The kind that means either he's telling the truth, or he's rehearsed the lie so long he's starting to believe it. I left with nothing solid. Just a gut feeling. Sean Regan hadn't just walked out on the Sternwoods. He'd been pushed. And if Eddie Mars had anything to do with it, I'd be back. With questions. And maybe a gun. I spent the next day chasing ghosts. One of them was Rusty Regan, or rather, the absence of him. Everyone talked about Sean Regan like he was a memory already, loyal, proud, and mysteriously gone. But no one ever said he'd been murdered. They said he left, disappeared. Too clean, too neat. I took a ride out to Eddie Mars' other property, an old house tucked behind a gambling front near Las Olindas. A little bird had told me that Mrs. Mona Mars might be hiding there, voluntarily or not. When I got there, I parked down the road and hiked through brush and dust. The moon was out, sharp as a razor and just as cold. There were lights in the house. A woman passed by the window. Tall, pale, blonde hair pinned back like in an old photo. Mona Mars. Still alive, still hiding. But why? And who was she hiding from? I circled the place, found a rear entrance. It was locked, but not for long. I jimmied it open and stepped inside like I'd been invited. The air was heavy, like everyone inside was waiting for something to happen and didn't know when. Footsteps creaked upstairs. Then a voice. "Eddie told me not to talk to you." It was Mona, standing at the top of the stairs in a satin robe, looking down at me like I'd ruined the one quiet moment of her year. I'm not Eddie," I said. "You're Marlowe." She wasn't surprised, just tired. "I don't know where Sean Regan is," she said before I could ask. "I never saw him again after he left the house 2 months ago. You expect me to believe that?" She came down slowly. "I expect you to believe whatever keeps me alive. Smart girl. Scared girl." I looked her over, no bruises, no scratches, but she had the look of someone who'd been hiding long before she was hidden. Suddenly, gunfire outside. 2 sharp cracks, close. I hit the floor. Mona ducked. Through the window, I saw shadows running toward the trees. I chased them, gun drawn, breath burning. Too dark to see, too fast to follow. Whoever they were, they didn't want me leaving with answers. They were fine with me leaving in a box. I went back to the house. Mona was gone. Front door wide open. Back to silence, back to nothing. Eddie Mars was playing a deeper game. Sean Regan was the key. And someone had just tried to keep that key buried. But I wasn't done digging. Not yet. I drove back to town with a headache full of lies and a gut full of lead. Mars had his wife tucked away like a royal secret, and a couple of trigger-happy stooges to make sure I didn't start asking the wrong questions too loudly. But I wasn't ready to crawl back into my office just yet. No. It was time for a visit to Vivian Sternwood. She was at a club in Hollywood, sitting in a velvet booth with 2 martinis and half a smile. "I wondered when you'd come ruin my evening," she said. "You been honest with me yet?" "Not once," she said. "Why start now?" I slid into the booth. "I found your sister naked with a dead man. Found Brody shot through the chest. Found out Eddie Mars has your name all over his address book." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. You just don't like hearing it out loud." She sipped her drink, calm as a glacier. "If you're here to scare me, try again. I've had a gun pointed at me twice this year. I'm still drinking. I'm here to ask about Sean Regan." Her smile cracked. "You think Eddie Mars killed him?" "I think someone did, and I think the general's been kept in the dark while this whole rotten business plays out in whispers and cover-ups." "Why do you care?" "Because I was hired to." She leaned in. "My father is dying. Let him die, thinking Regan just walked away. That what really happened?" She didn't answer. Didn't have to. Outside, the night felt heavier. Vivian was scared, which meant she was either innocent or involved. I'd seen too many women cry behind glass to mistake one for the other. She wasn't innocent. Not all the way. But she wasn't the killer either. That left me with too many suspects and not enough time. I drove to Mars's club again. Didn't go inside, just watched. 3 men came and went in suits and shadows. One of them. The kid who'd followed me from the Sternwood place early on. He was working for Mars. I followed him. He stopped at a payphone near Sunset, dialed, spoke fast, hung up. I watched him leave. Then I picked up the phone, redialed. A voice answered on the first ring. "Yeah? Is this the hiding place for all the answers?" Click. They hung up. That was enough for tonight. I went home, hung my hat, poured a drink, and stared at the case file again. 3 dead, 1 missing, 1 family full of secrets, and a city that never sleeps long enough for justice to catch its breath. By the next morning, the streets felt different. Quieter, like everyone in the city was holding their breath, waiting for someone to shoot first. I stopped by Nash Motors, where Mars's name kept floating up like oil on dirty water. Turns out, one of his boys, Lash Canino, had been seen roughing up a mechanic named Harry Jones. Word was Harry had information. I tracked him down in a rundown cafe off Alameda. He was nervous, skinny, sweating through his collar. "I know where the girl is," he whispered. "What girl?" "Agnes," he said. "She knows about the Regan thing. Wants out, wants money." "Where?" "She'll meet you at 10 p.m. behind the oil plant, but she wants a guarantee, protection." "And you?" "I just want $50 and a clean ride out of town." I gave him the money. He smiled, and then dropped dead, right there at the counter. Poisoned. I never even saw who did it, but I had a damn good guess. Canino. Mars had unleashed his dog, and Harry had walked into the kennel wearing steak for shoes. I found Agnes that night. She was shaking, pale, scared out of her skin. "I didn't know they'd kill him," she said. "I just wanted out." "Then talk." She did. Told me she'd helped Geiger run the blackmail ring. Brody tried to cut in. When Regan came sniffing around too close, Mars took action. "I think Regan saw something," she said, "or someone." "Mona?" She nodded. He and Mona, they were close. I tied the bow. Regan got too close to Mona. Mars found out. And Regan vanished. Now I had motive, I had means. And I had Mars in the crosshairs, but it still wasn't proof. And I wasn't about to point fingers without a body to back them up. So I set the next step. I told Agnes to set up a meeting with Canino. I wanted him. And I wanted to see how far Mars would go to keep his secrets buried. That night, I cleaned my gun, put on my best suit, and reminded myself that in this city, justice doesn't knock. It breaks in. Agnes set the meeting for a backroad garage out past Realito. Midnight. The kind of place where engines die. Secrets are dumped in oil drums and nobody hears you scream over the wind. I showed up early. Canino was already there. Slick black coupe outside. And inside, a man with a twisted grin and a gun to match. He greeted me with the warmth of a rattlesnake. "Mr. Marlowe," he said, "heard you've been asking questions. That's my job. Your job just got harder." Then he cracked me across the skull. I saw stars, then black. I woke up tied to a chair in the back of the garage. Gagged. Dizzy. Canino was nearby, cleaning his gun and humming a tune like nothing mattered more than polishing a bullet meant for my head. Mona Mars was there too. She looked scared, but not surprised. "You didn't have to hit him," she told Canino. "He talks too much." She walked over to me, pulled down the gag. "Why'd you come here?" she whispered. "To find Regan," I croaked. She flinched. "You won't? Because your husband killed him?" She didn't answer. Canino stood. "Time's up, sweetheart. Boss says we tidied this up." Mona didn't move. "I'm tired of this," she said. Canino grabbed her arm. "Stay out of it." She looked at me, then at the gun. Her eyes narrowed. And then she slapped him. Not hard, but enough to buy me a second. That's all I needed. I kicked the chair backward, rolled into the workbench, and caught the edge of a wrench with my tied hands. Canino turned, too slow. I cracked him in the knee. He screamed. I hit again. Mona grabbed his pistol. Bang. One shot. Canino dropped. Just like that. She stood over him, hands shaking, eyes wet. "He was going to kill you." "Yeah," I said, breathing hard, "and maybe me too." I cut my ropes, took the gun, and found Canino's keys. We left the garage with the night still thick and dangerous around us. No sirens, no backup, just a dead man, a getaway car, and the last piece of the puzzle. Mona knew where Sean Regan was, and now, so did I. We drove through the dark in Canino's coupe, the tires slicing through gravel like a whisper that didn't want to be overheard. Mona didn't say much. Neither did I. Not until we reached a lonely stretch of road past the canyons, the kind of place where secrets are buried under dust and time. She pointed to a grove of cypress trees. There, behind the old water tank. I parked. We walked in silence. The air was cold, heavy with the smell of old pine and older gilt. And then we stopped. A mound of dirt, fresh weeks ago, now crusted over and sinking. "He's there," she whispered. "Sean." "Why?" Her lips trembled. "Eddie told me Sean was leaving, that he was getting too close to the truth about Geiger, about Mars's deals with blackmail, smut, Bridget even, and about me." She looked away. "Sean tried to take me with him, said Eddie was poison. I believed him. So, Eddie killed him." She nodded. "Canino did it. Eddie watched." I lit a cigarette. My hands were shaking. Not from the cold. I called the cops, gave them directions, told them what they'd find. Hung up before they could ask too many questions. I didn't need them yet. I needed to see the general. Back at the Sternwood mansion, he sat like a ghost among orchids, fingers trembling around a glass of warm milk. "Did you find him?" he rasped. "Yes." He didn't move, didn't blink, just whispered. "Was it quick?" "No," I said, "but it's over." He looked down at the floor for a long time, then, as quiet as a prayer, "Thank you." Outside, Vivian caught me at the car. She looked tired, more real than ever. "He knows?" "Yeah. What now?" "Now I give the cops Mars's name. The rest is out of my hands." She stared at me. "And me?" I didn't answer. She reached out, touched my sleeve. "We could start over." I looked at her. "Too long, maybe." "You're beautiful, Vivian." But I'm not that kind of fool." She stepped back, eyes glassy. "You'd really walk away from me?" "No," I said. "I'd walk away from all of this." Then I did. Because you don't build a future on a grave, especially one that still breathes. They found Sean Regan's body right where Mona said. The cops dug it up at dawn. Autopsy confirmed it. Blunt trauma to the skull, signs of a struggle, hands tied behind his back. Murder. Cold, clean, deliberate. Canino had done the dirty work. Mars had ordered it. And now, Mars was nowhere to be found. Gone like fog after sunrise, thought I. The papers ran it as a mystery solved, the missing Irishman found, the racketeer exposed, the Sternwood family avenged. But that wasn't the truth. Not really. Because nobody wins in a case like this. The bodies go into the ground, but the shadows stay. And the people left behind, they keep living in the dark. I stopped by the mansion one last time. General Sternwood was in his chair, the orchids blooming around him like a sick joke. He looked older, smaller. "You did what I asked," he said. "Not exactly. But you told me the truth." I nodded. He raised his glass, some murky concoction the nurse had left him. "To the truth, then," he rasped, "however ugly it is." I didn't stay long. I didn't say goodbye to Vivian. Some things are better left unspoken. Some endings don't need a curtain. Just silence. Back at my office, I poured myself a drink and stared out the window. The city kept moving. Traffic, laughter, sirens, neon. Nothing changed. And yet everything had. The Falcon was a fake. Reagan was a ghost. And the big sleep? It wasn't death. It was what people did every day when they looked away from the truth. Let it pass. Let it fester. Let it rot. I lit a cigarette, sat back in my chair, and waited for the next case to come knocking. Because justice doesn't rest, and neither do I.